Man's word is his wand filled with magic and power. Jesus Christ emphasized the power of the word. By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. And death and life are in the power of the tongue. So man has power to change an unhappy condition by waving over it the wand of his word. In the place of sorrow appears joy. In the place of sickness appears health. In the place of lack appears plenty. For example, a woman came for a treatment for prosperity. She possessed just $2 in the world. I said, "We bless the $2 and know that you have the magic purse of the Spirit. It can never be depleted. As money goes out, immediately money comes in under grace in perfect ways. I see it always crammed, jammed with money. Yellow bills, green bills, pink checks, blue checks, white checks, gold, silver, and currency. I see it bulging with abundance." She replied, "I feel my bag heavy with money," and was so filled with faith that she gave me one of her dollars as a love offering. I did not dare refuse it and see lack for her, as it was important that I hold the picture of plenty. Shortly afterwards, she was made a gift of $6,000. Fearless faith and the spoken word brought it to pass. The affirmation of the magic purse is very powerful, as it brings a vivid picture to the mind. It is impossible not to see your purse or wallet filled with money when using the words crammed, jammed. The imaging faculty is the creative faculty, and it is important to choose words which bring a flash of the fulfillment of the demand. Never force a picture by visualizing. Let the divine idea flash into your subconscious mind. Then the student is working according to the divine design. Jesus Christ said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." This means that man must know the truth of every situation which confronts him. There is no truth in lack or limitation. He waves over it the wand of his word, and the wilderness rejoices and blossoms as the rose. Fear, doubt, anxiety, anger, resentment pull down the cells of the body, shock the nervous system, and are the causes of disease and disaster. Happiness and health must be earned by absolute control of the emotional nature. Power moves, but is never moved. When man stands calm and serene, has a good appetite, feels contented and happy when appearances are against him, he has reached mastery. Then he has power to rebuke the winds and the waves, to control conditions. His word is his wand, and he transmutes apparent failure into success. He knows his universal supply is endless and immediate, and all his needs manifest instantly on the external. For example, a woman at sea awoke in the morning hearing the foghorns blowing. A dense fog had settled on the ocean with no apparent signs of clearing. She immediately spoke the word, "There are no fogs in divine mind, so let the fog be lifted. I give thanks for the sun." Soon the sun came out, for man has dominion over the elements, over all created things. Every man has power to lift the fog in his life. It may be a fog of lack of money, love, happiness, or health. Give thanks for the sun. There are certain words or pictures which impress the subconscious mind. For example, a man called asking me to speak the word for his right work. I gave him the statement, "Behold, I have set before thee the open door of destiny, and no man shall shut it." It didn't seem to make much impression, so I was inspired to add, "And no man shall shut it, for it is nailed back." The man was electrified and went out walking on air. Within a few weeks, he was called to a distant city to fill a wonderful position which came about in a miraculous way. I give another example of a woman who fearlessly followed a hunch. She was working for a small salary when she read my book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. The thought came in a flash to start in business for herself and open a tea room and candy shop. The idea staggered her at first, but it persisted, so she boldly went forth and procured a shop and assistants. She spoke the word for supply, for she did not have money to back her enterprise. It came in miraculous ways, and the shop opened. From the first day, it was filled with people, and now it is crammed, jammed. They stand in line and wait. One day, being a holiday, her assistants became gloomy and said they could not expect to do much business. My student, however, replied that God was her supply, and every day was a good day. In the afternoon, an old friend came in to see the shop and bought a 2-pound box of candy. He gave her a check, and when she looked at it, she found it was for $100. So it was indeed a good day. $100 for a box of candy. She says every morning she enters the shop with wonder and gives thanks that she had the fearless faith that wins. Man comes into the world financed by God, with all that he desires or requires already on his pathway. This supply is released through faith and the spoken word. If thou canst believe, all things are possible. For example, a woman came to me one day to tell me of her experience in using an affirmation she had read in my book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. She was without experience, but desired a good position on the stage. She took the affirmation, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my great abundance. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. She was given a very important part in a successful opera. She said, it was a miracle, due to that affirmation which I repeated hundreds of times. In that wonderful moving picture, The Thief of Baghdad, we were told in letters of light that happiness must be earned. It is earned through perfect control of the emotional nature. There can be no happiness where there is fear, apprehension, or dread. With perfect faith in God comes a feeling of security and happiness. When man knows that there is an invincible power that protects him and all that he loves and brings to him every righteous desire of the heart, he relaxes all nervous tension and is happy and satisfied. He is undisturbed by adverse appearances, knowing that infinite intelligence is protecting his interests and utilizing every situation to bring his good to pass. I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in a desert. Uneasy lies the head that wears a frown. Anger, resentment, ill will, jealousy, and revenge rob a man of his happiness and bring sickness, failure, and poverty in their wake. Resentment has ruined more homes than drink and killed more people than war. For example, there was a woman who was healthy and happy and married to a man she loved. The man died and left part of his estate to a relative. The woman was filled with resentment. She lost weight, was unable to do her work, developed gallstones, and became very ill. A metaphysician called upon her one day. He said, "Woman, see what hate and resentment have done to you? They have caused hard stones to form in your body, and only forgiveness and goodwill can cure you." The woman saw the truth of this statement. She became harmonious and forgiving and regained her splendid health. With love usually comes terrific fear. Nearly every woman comes into the world with a mythical woman in the back of her mind who is to rob her of her love. She has been called the other woman. Of course, it comes from woman's belief in duality. So long as she visualizes interference, it will come. It is usually very difficult for a woman to see herself loved by the man she loves. So these affirmations are to impress the truth of the situation upon her subconscious mind. For in reality, there is only oneness. Unless marriage is built upon the rock of oneness, it cannot stand. Two souls with but a single thought, two hearts that beat as one. The poet understood this, for unless man and his wife are living the same thoughts, or living in the same thought world, they must inevitably drift apart. Thought is a tremendous vibratory force, and man is drawn to his thought creations. For example, a man and woman married and were apparently happy. The man became successful and his tastes improved, but the wife still lived in a limited consciousness. Whenever the man bought anything, he went to the best shops and selected what he needed regardless of price. Whenever the wife went out, she haunted the 5 and 10-cent stores. He was living, in thought, on Fifth Avenue, and her thought world was on Third Avenue. Eventually, the break and separation came. We see this so often in the cases of rich and successful men who desert their faithful, hard-working wives later in life. The wife must keep pace with her husband's taste and ambitions and live in his thought world, for where a man thinketh in his heart, there is he. There is for each person his other half, or a divine selection. These two are one in their thought worlds. These are the two whom God has joined together, and no man shall or can part asunder. The twain shall be made one, for in the superconscious mind of each is the same divine plan. Hope looks forward. Faith knows it has already received and acts accordingly. In my classes, I often emphasize the importance of digging ditches, or preparing for the thing asked for, which shows active faith and brings the demonstration to pass. A man in my class whom I called the life of the party, because he always tried to find a question I couldn't answer, but he never succeeded, asked, why is it then a lot of women who prepare hope chests never get married? I replied, because it is a hope chest and not a faith chest. The prospective bride also violates law in telling others about it. Her friends come in and sit on the hope chest and either doubt or hope she'll never succeed. Pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. The student should never talk of a demonstration until it has gelled or comes to pass on the external. So a hope chest should become a faith chest and be kept from the public eye, and the words spoken for the divine selection of a husband under grace in a perfect way. Those whom God hath joined together, no thought can put asunder. If man loses anything, it shows there is a belief of loss in his subconscious mind. As he erases this false belief, the article or its equivalent will appear on the external. For example, a woman lost a silver pencil in a theater. She made every effort to find it, but it was not returned. She denied loss, taking the affirmation, I deny loss. There is no loss in divine mind. Therefore, I cannot lose that pencil. I will receive it or its equivalent. Several weeks elapsed. One day she was with a friend who wore about her neck on a cord a beautiful gold pencil, who turned to her and said, do you want this pencil? I paid $50 for it at Tiffany's. The woman was aghast and replied, almost forgetting to thank her friend, oh, God, aren't you wonderful? The silver pencil wasn't good enough for me. Man can only lose what doesn't belong to him by divine right or isn't good enough for him. If a man is in debt or people owe him money, it shows that a belief of debt is in his subconscious mind. This belief must be neutralized in order to change conditions. For example, a woman came to me saying a man had owed her $1,000 for years, which she could not compel him to pay. I said, you must work on yourself, not the man, and gave her this statement. I deny debt. There is no debt in divine mind. No man owes me anything. all is squared. I send that man love and forgiveness." In a few weeks, she received a letter from him saying he intended sending the money, and in about a month came the $1,000. If the student owes money, change the statement. There is no debt in divine mind. Therefore, I owe no man anything. All is squared. All my obligations are now wiped out under grace in a perfect way. A woman who lived in a country town wished to sell her house and furniture. It was in the winter with snow so deep it was almost impossible for cars or wagons to reach her door. As she had asked God to sell her furniture to the right person for the right price, she was unmindful of appearances. She polished the furniture, pushed it into the middle of the room, and prepared to sell it. She said, "I never looked out of the window at the blizzard. I simply trusted God's promises." In miraculous ways, people drove up, all the furniture was sold, and the house also, without paying any commission to an agent. Faith never looks out of the window at the blizzard. It simply prepares for the blessing asked for. Always on man's pathway is his message or his lead. For example, a woman was much troubled over an unhappy situation. She thought to herself, "Will it ever clear up?" Her maid was standing near and commenced to tell her of her experiences. The woman was too worried to be interested, but listened patiently. The maid was saying, "I worked in a hotel once where there was a very amusing gardener. He always said such funny things. It had been raining for 3 days, and I said to him, 'Do you think it will ever clear up?' And he replied, 'My God, doesn't it always clear up?' The woman was amazed. It was the answer to her thoughts. She said reverently, 'Yes, with my God, it always clears up.' Soon after, her problem did clear up in an unexpected way. There is a divine design for each man. Just as the perfect picture of the oak is in the acorn, the divine pattern of his life is in the superconscious mind of man. In the divine design, there is no limitation, only health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. So on man's pathway, there is always a divine selection. Each day he must live according to the divine plan or have unhappy reactions. For example, a woman moved into a new apartment which she had almost furnished when the thought came to her, on that side of the room should stand a Chinese cabinet. Not long after, she was walking by an antique shop. She glanced in, and there stood a magnificent Chinese cabinet about 8 feet high, elaborately carved. She entered and asked the price. The salesman said it was worth $1,000, but the woman who owned it was willing to take less. The man added, "What will you offer for it?" The woman paused, and the price, $200, came into her mind. So she answered, $200. The man said he would let her know if the offer were satisfactory. She did not want to cheat anyone or get anything which was not rightfully hers. So going home, she said repeatedly, "If it's mine, I can't lose it, and if it isn't mine, I don't want it." It was a snowy day, and she said she emphasized her words by kicking the snow from right to left, clearing a pathway to her apartment. Several days elapsed when she was notified that the woman was willing to sell the cabinet for $200. There is a supply for every demand, from Chinese cabinets to millions of dollars. Before ye call, I shall answer. But unless it is a divinely selected cabinet or millions, they would never bring happiness. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that built it. When man is harmonious and happy, he is healthy. All sickness comes from sin or violation of spiritual law. Jesus Christ said, "Be thou healed, your sins are forgiven." Resentment, ill will, hate, fear, etc., tear down the cells of the body and poison the blood. Accidents, old age, and death itself come from holding wrong mental pictures. When man sees himself as God sees him, he will become a radiant being, timeless, birthless, and deathless. For God made man in his likeness and in his image. Man is made in God's likeness and image, and is given power and dominion over all created things. He has power to rebuke the winds and the waves, check floods, or bring rain when it is needed. There is a tribe of American Indians who live in the desert country and depend on the power of prayer only to bring rain to water their crops. They have a rain dance, which is a form of prayer, but no chief is allowed to take part who has any fear. They give exhibitions of courage before they are admitted to the ceremonies. A woman who was an eyewitness told me that out of a blue sky came a deluge of rain, the sun still shining. The thing you dislike or hate will surely come upon you, for when man hates, he makes a vivid picture in the subconscious mind and it objectifies. The only way to erase these pictures is through non-resistance. For example, a woman was interested in a man who told her repeatedly of his charming women cousins. She was jealous and resentful, and he passed out of her life. Later on, she met another man to whom she was much attracted. In the course of their conversation, he mentioned some women cousins he was very fond of. She resented it, then laughed, for here were her old friends, the cousins, back again. This time, she tried non-resistance. She blessed all the cousins in the universe and sent them goodwill, for she knew if she didn't, every man she met would be stocked up with women relations. It was successful, for she never heard cousins mentioned again. This is the reason so many people have unhappy experiences repeated in their lives. I knew a woman who bragged of her troubles. She would go about saying to people, "I know what trouble is," and then wait for their words of sympathy. Of course, the more she mentioned her troubles, the more she had, for by her words she was condemned. She should have used her words to neutralize her troubles instead of to multiply them. For example, had she said repeatedly, "I cast every burden upon the Christ within and I go free," and not voiced her sorrows, they would have faded from her life, for by your words you are justified. I will give to thee the land that thou seest. Man is ever reaping on the external what he has sown in his thought world. For example, a woman needed money and was walking along the street making the affirmation that God was her immediate supply. She looked down, and at her feet was a $2 bill, which she picked up. A man standing near, a watchman in a building, said to her, "Lady, did you pick up some money? I thought it was a piece of chewing gum paper. A lot of people walked over it, but when you came, it opened up like a leaf." The others, thinking lack, had passed over it, but at her words of faith, it unfurled. So with the opportunities in life, one man sees, another passes by. Faith without works or action is dead. The student, in order to bring into manifestation the answer to his prayer, must show active faith. For example, a woman came to me asking to speak the word for the renting of a room. I gave her the statement, "I give thanks that the room is now rented to the right and perfect man for the right price, giving perfect satisfaction." Several weeks elapsed, but the room had not been rented. I asked, "Have you shown active faith? Have you followed every hunch in regard to the room?" She replied, "I had a hunch to get a lamp for the room, but I decided I couldn't afford it." I said, "You'll never rent the room until you get the lamp, for in buying the lamp you are acting your faith, impressing the subconscious mind with certainty." I asked, "What is the price of the lamp?" She answered, $4. I exclaimed, $4 standing between you and the perfect man. She became so enthusiastic, she bought 2 lamps. About a week elapsed, and in walked the perfect man. He did not smoke, and paid the rent in advance and fulfilled her ideal in every way. Unless you become as a little child and dig your ditches, you shall in no wise enter the kingdom of manifestation. Without the vision, my people perish. Unless man has some objective, some promised land to look forward to, he begins to perish. We see it so often in small country towns, in the men who sit around a stove all winter who ain't got no ambition. Within each one is an undiscovered country, a gold mine. I knew a man in a country town called Magnolia Charlie because he always found the first magnolia in the spring. He was a shoemaker, but every afternoon left his work to go to the station to meet the 4:15 train from a distant city. They were the only romances in his life, the first magnolia and the 4:15 train. He felt vaguely the call of the vision in the superconscious mind. No doubt the divine design for him included travel, and perhaps he was to become a genius in the plant world. Through the spoken word, the divine design may be released and each one fulfill his destiny. I now see clearly the perfect plan of my life. Divine enthusiasm fires me, and I now fulfill my destiny. The spiritual attitude towards money is to know that God is man's supply and that he draws from it the abundance of the spheres through his faith and spoken word. When man realizes this, he loses all greed for money and is fearless in letting it go out. With his magic purse of the spirit, his supply is endless and immediate, and he knows also that giving precedes receiving. For example, a woman came to me asking me to speak the word for $500 by the 1st of August. It was then about the 1st of July. I knew her very well and said, "The trouble with you is you don't give enough. You must open your channels of supply by giving." She had accepted an invitation to visit a friend and did not want to go on account of the formality. She said, "Please treat me to be polite for 3 weeks, and I want to get away as soon as possible, and be sure to speak the word for the $500. She went to the friend's house, was unhappy and restless, and tried continually to leave, but was always persuaded to stay longer. She remembered my advice, however, and gave the people about her presents. Whenever possible, she made a little gift. It was nearing the 1st of August, and no signs of the $500 and no way of escape from the visit. The last day of July, she said, "Oh God, maybe I haven't given enough." So she tipped all the servants more than she had intended. The 1st of August, her hostess said to her, "My dear, I want to make you a gift," and she handed her a check for $500. God works in unexpected ways, his wonders to perform. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to happen. Nothing is too good to last.